Can you please introduce yourself? What is your position at Aitex? And what do you mainly work on?
Well, my name is Carolina, and I'm the hub manager from Hub Valencia. In this project, my work is managing all the 4 projects that we have on Re-FREAM. Especially one of these is Marinero from Jeff Montes.
Hi, my name is Jaime. I'm project manager of research in Aitex, and I was working with Jeff in the project of Marinero, focused in the technician parts.
The second question is, can you explain something about the collaborative process? How did you experience working on the project and creating the Adaptive Archi-Filament?
It was a nice experience because it's not usual to me to work with a designer, because we have to develop different products, and we have to think in the first step what we have to do, what we want to make and how we can do it. So the first step was a bit hard because we have to think about the final product and how to do that. So to me it was different, and this is because it was fun.
Yeah, it was quite a collaborative process, right? I remember when I entered Aitex to learn all the technology and all the machines that you have at Aitex and several processes from yarn and filament process. For me, this was a really interesting experience to learn the basic steps that you do as a technician at Aitex, and later convert this into this information, what eventually became the Adaptive Archi-Filament. So the first question, can you please introduce yourself? What is your position at Haratech, and what do you mainly work on?
So my name is Guillaume Clément. I'm a plastics engineer, and I'm working as a research and development engineer at Haratech since the end of 2017.
So going on to the next question, can you explain something about the collaborative process? How did you experience working on Project Marinero?
Well, working on this project was very interesting because there were the major challenge of understanding each other in the first place. We saw that because we come from different backgrounds and different fields, we used the same vocabulary but with different definitions, which was very interesting, and so we needed several weeks already to know what we were talking about. And then, since we were working on a completely new product, which is the Archi-Filament, which has never been done before, we needed to come up with complete new ideas of making it at all. It was not about just adapting shortly existing process. It was more about creating a new process, which was very exciting.
So going on to the next question. We started wanting to 3D print the Archi-Filament. What happened during this process?
That was quite of a surprise, and of course that can happen a lot in research project, that we had different views and different expectations, or at the beginning of the project, or we understood each other at least not completely. And thanks to the work that we did at the very beginning to put everything on the table and to set clearly what we are with sketches on paper, on the computer, with 3D printing objects, to have it in the hands to be sure to manipulate the same objects, then we clarified, we made clear that it was actually not possible to 3D print it as we wanted, because it was just not, because of the process, it was not possible. And thus we had to adapt and to find new ways and to modify the product, to modify the process, and then we found a solution in the end. But different from what we expected at the beginning, for sure.
Yes, I remember you connected me to Wood KPlus, one of the partners at Johannes Kepler University. And this was the moment when we went from 3D printing to filament producing. Can you please introduce yourself? What is your position at Wood KPlus? And what do you mainly work on?
Hi, my name is Konrad Wipplinger, and I work at KPlus from 2007. And I'm for all technical parts and work with as a mainly on the extrusion technology and injection molding, also filament extrusion, 3D printing parts, and yes.
Okay, hello, my name is Jürgen Leslomer and I'm a colleague of Konrad Wipplinger, and I work as a project manager at Wood KPlus since December 2008. And my main research fields are weathering and the development of biodegradable and bio-based composites and 3D printing filaments.
So, Jürgen, what technology and materials did you use to create the Marinero textured monofilament?
So for the production of this textured monofilament, we used a high viscosity polyamide 6 from DSM. And the chosen type was a film extrusion type, and it was recommended from this supplier for the production of 3D printing filaments. So that was the main reason why we choose it for this filament production. And the basic technology was extrusion. It's a continuous process to produce plastic products. And yeah, the special thing on this technology was that we had to use an embossing step. So my colleague Konrad installed an embossing roller combined with a pressure roller to get this textured structure.
Yes, this was really special, right? You kind of modified existing machines to rebuild some parts to create a special kind of new technique into the samples that we created. Can you please introduce yourself? What is your position at TextielLab and what do you mainly work on?
Well, I'm Judith Beskens and I work as a product developer for the technique weaving. I work here since 7 years now, and I mainly work with designers, artists, students, architects, and I transform their ideas into a woven fabric to the machines.
And I'm Damien Simerjan. I start my position as a knitting product developer at the TextielLab in last May. And my job is a little bit like you did before, the flat bed knitting machine. So it means that I follow the project of architects, designers, students, fashion designers, to help them to finish their projects.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we can go on to the next question. Can you please explain something about the collaborative process? How did you experience working on Project Marinero?
Yes, it was a very new project for us because new yarns were created, and with new yarns there are pros and cons. Of course, it's very interesting to see the results, but also the machine needs to be able to use them. So if it's too heavy, too thick, if the machine cannot cut it, it can also break the machine. So it's very delicate. Otherwise, it was interesting because Jeff had a clear idea about the dresses, but how to insert the yarns were freely. So I could play with the yarns and the structures, and with that, yeah, we could make really nice combinations.
That's great. And how did you experience this, Damien?
Well, for me, it was a really interesting experience for the technique used to end the designs. And at the same time, it was very difficult. But for me, it's a good point because it means I can learn from it. Because of the yarns we use and because the dimension of the designs. And all combined was very challenging, but at the same time, really interesting.
So the first question is, can you please introduce yourself? What is your position at Empa and what do you mainly work on?
So I am Agnes Psikuta. I work at Empa as a senior researcher since already 15 years. And my major field of expertise is to produce tools, virtual tools for simulation of human physiology, for simulation of clothing virtually on the human body and their properties and their effect on human physiology. And I'm also working with thermal mannequins and thermal devices that are used for research in textile and clothing domain.
Okay. Well, the next question, I think it's a little bit an abstract question because we are now at the end of the project, but not at the end of the research. So my question would be, what do you think about the project outcome until this point?
Okay, I think it is an interesting beginning of something to be really used and not only watched in museum or in gallery. So for the moment, it is a tool that you use to make artistic expression, but actually it has a potential to be also something very practical, useful, and even commercialized. Of course, you need quite a few steps from now till then, but well, I see quite a few applications if you were successful with improving technology or bringing technology to the more commercial form.
Okay, interesting. So can you please introduce yourself? What is your profession and what do you mainly work on?
Okay, I'm Bart Nijboer. I'm an artist from the Netherlands, and I mainly work with metal and yeah, I make moving sculptures and installations. I try to search for natural elements that are moving or dissolving or changing. And I try to capture that in my work.
Okay, great, interesting. So the next question is, the final step for our collaboration is to build all the installations. This process will take another 4 months. What are you expecting in terms of final results?
I think it will be fine because we are working on it so long and we predicted so good what could happen and how to do it in all these different locations that now we have this one location where we can do everything. That will be really really nice, and I'm really looking forward because I think we made a good project, and it will be so nice to see it come together and get a really nice result.
I agree. We have 6 categories and we have 4 installations. So we will first start to build 2 installations and then we will see what the first 2 categories will do in terms of the deformation of the fabrics. So this will happen in September and October. And then we will go on to November and December and we will prepare the 4 installations on the platform. And it's going to be a really exciting process because I agree with you. We can basically see the seasons change from autumn to winter, and we can get a preview each week if we want. We can come together and see how the process is working. It's really close by. So I'm really happy about this outcome so that we can keep it so close to us and manage the whole process.